WIBTA for not having my cancer-stricken ex-husband stay with me through his treatment? Originally posted by you, Fluffyamapajama in r. Am I the Asshole on March 10, 23, updated on April 3, 23. An NBSP. Trigger warning. Cheating. Cancer. Less than. An NBSP. Original March 10, 23. An NBSP. WIBTA for not having my cancer-stricken ex-husband stay with me through his treatment? For most of our marriage my husband, 39M, and I, 37F, had a very happy relationship. We had good jobs, decent money, 2 kids and loved each other. Then he got diagnosed with a rare form of cancer and we went through years of painful treatments and recovery together. We moved to a small house to be close to the research center where he underwent treatment. His parents paid half of the down payment on the house. The other half was from our savings and investments. In the divorce he gave me the house and took all of his medical debt. We have been divorced a year. But now his cancer has come back and he needs treatment again at the same research hospital. He wants to stay in what is now my house while undergoing treatment and his parents expect me to house him and look after him because he was generous in letting me have the house without taking his rightful share from the equity. When we were married and he was undergoing treatment, it was new stuff that was expensive and also very physically draining on him. We were lucky that both our jobs were supportive and flexible. But with his health issues, little kids and expenses, we had to downgrade our lifestyle a lot. That plus the physical changes in his body made him very depressed. Whenever he felt a bit better, he'd go stay in his hometown. It's a small town where most of his family and a lot of his childhood friends live. I was doing all the caretaking of him, while also dealing with insurance complications. I was also managing the kids, the entire household and my full-time job. We had help from friends and neighbors but it was very hard. I wasn't happy about him spending his healthy days away from us. But it was good for his mental health so I didn't feel like I could object. While he was staying there he had reconnected with his high school girlfriend. A couple years ago he admitted to me that he was sleeping with her and I filed for divorce. He had fully recovered from his cancer by then. There are other aspects around the cheating that left me very heartbroken and feeling betrayed. His giving me the house and taking all the debt was an apology of a sort. His parents feel that I owe him for getting the house and should let him stay there for the 23 months his treatment is at the facility. I do want him to be well and I don't want my kids to lose a loving father. But I can't deal with having him around me, especially not if I end up being his nurse and caretaker again. I am still very bitter about how our marriage ended. A lot of people close to me are telling me that I should support him for the sake of my kids. WIBTA if I say I can't do that? An NBSP. In the comments, they announced their engagement the day the divorce was finalized. That still hurts so much. I am struggling with this so much. I don't think I hate him. A part of me still loves him as an old friend. I definitely wouldn't want my kids to suffer the devastation of losing their father. He loves them and is loved by them. When I look at it as an outside observer, I can understand what he was going through in falling in love with someone else. During the worst parts of his illness I was frequently cleaning up after him. His vomiting, his loss of bowel control. I pulled muscles and injured myself helping him move. He found that emasculating, so I can see how he'd find it appealing that someone still saw him as the old him when he was healthy and strong and I became the nurse figure. So I tell myself that and I don't hate him. But I went years without sex because he was sick. The loss of libido was an expected temporary side effect of his medication. I accepted that and made do with being celibate. I feel guilty talking about how painful it was because I should be grateful he survived and that is So trivial given the situation. But I would masturbate in hiding. Didn't even get a vibrator because I didn't want him feel bad or awful for not being able to do it. And all this time I was making do thinking he wasn't able to. He was sleeping with a whole another person. And that disloyalty still makes me cry. Even without the cheating and whatnot. Caretaking is a full-time job and it's very taxing emotionally, mentally, and physically. You're not his wife anymore. You have no obligation to do this. The last time I did it out of love. I can just not do it now. It was very difficult. The big upside to me in getting divorced was not having to deal with that anymore. As difficult as it is to take care of a sick person, dealing with the insurance bureaucracy and keeping track of all the medical contacts and treatment details is a pretty big logistical nightmare. Maybe for the sake of his children you could allow him to stay there, but he or his parents pay for a nurse or aide to care for him. You are certainly not obligated to help him in any way. But your children are old enough to know he's ill, and if you choose not to help him, it will likely adversely impact your relationship with your kids. If not now, later. Especially if something happens to him and he dies. If you don't help him, I fear they will blame you for not helping him by at least allowing him to stay there. I hadn't started thinking on those terms yet. But yes, you are right. I have to measure how my kids will react to this. I haven't told them yet that he is sick again. They were very little back then and only knew that Dad was sick and got better. Now my oldest is big enough to understand cancer and what that means. My ex has been the fun Disney dad since we separated. They adore him. The chances of his parents being unaware that their son was sleeping with his high school girlfriend when he came home is 0. They knew and supported him. They were always good to me, so it wasn't like they wanted to break up my marriage. But they were in whatever makes him happy because he survived cancer. I think he received some side-eye for this from people who knew what we went through. And my ex-in-laws did damage control by making overly gushing social media posts about how the GF always looked out for him and made him laugh when they were kids and did it again when he was going through a hard time. As if her comedy skills are what cured his cancer. I was just the background maid, nanny, assistant character that can be ignored. Sorry. I am still bitter and I keep regurgitating the same stuff. About the in-laws. They are my kids' grandparents. The only loving grandparents my kids have. They dote on my kids and drive hours to spend time with them and take them places. I resent them. But they are good grandparents. Judgment. Not the asshole. An NBSP. Update April 3rd, 23. An NBSP. Update. WIBTA for not having my cancer-stricken ex-husband stay with me through his treatment? The Sunday after I made the post to AITA, my ex-in-laws picked up the kids for a zoo trip. They sometimes come to pick them up to entertain them, and so I thought nothing of it. A few hours later, a very teary and contrite Mill dropped off 2 bawling kids with me. She told them their dad is sick and will die if he doesn't stay with us and go to the hospital. We hadn't had a talk with the kids yet about the diagnosis, and she dropped it on them that he is dying from cancer. He is not dying. It's a painful treatment, but he'll recover. I was so furious I was raging. I called the ex and tore him a new one. He was shocked too, and we together exploded at his mom. She broke down and cried, begging me to not take away her grandkids from her. As if I'd trust her after this. Ex and I together talked to the kids, him on video, and assured them that yes, he is sick but he'll be fine. He just needs to go to the hospital and they'll make him better like the last time he was sick. The kids settled after that, but my oldest has been at me crying and begging to make Dad come live with us. I promised them I'd talk to Dad and figure out what's the best thing to do. I swallowed a lot of bile to talk to him about why he was doing this. We had a pretty long and detailed discussion. The bottom line is that he's broke. He still has a decent job, but his credit is ruined. He has a lot of debt and he stupidly got the cheapest insurance that barely covers anything. Fiancé is no help either. She's worse off financially. So he needs a place to stay. He can't afford this otherwise. His parents are funding some of his medical payments and are already stretched. He was financially all right when we broke up, so I have no idea what happened in such a short time. Anyway, X and his GF moved into my daughter's room. My daughter happily gave it up to her dad and is sharing her little brother's room. Both kids are over the moon happy to have their dad in their home. My daughter keeps checking on him every few minutes to make sure he's still okay. Mill traumatized my kid. I'll never forgive that woman for this. I let the GF move in with him because I was too angry to care about who came to look after him as long as it wasn't me. I didn't know how I could bear having her in my home. But it appears to be more misery for her than me, and that strangely makes it more tolerable for me. She is teary-eyed and crying all the time. It's only been 3 days, but I am so annoyed I want to shake her and tell her to pull it together. The current treatment plan is for 3 months. I am counting down the days. I am thankful for the many people who gave me great advice on my last post. I wasn't expecting things to go this way. But they played me by manipulating my kids. I'll slowly pull myself and the kids away and move. But for now I've to deal with this for my kids' sake. ETA. I was trying to make this update more than a week ago. So to add to that, X's treatment is coming along nicely. The tumors that grew again are much smaller than before, and the new stuff that they are giving him is more directed too, so he's not having as many bad symptoms as he had last time. I had promised myself I would do nothing to help, and I stayed away from both X and his fiancée. But I did end up helping him deal with insurance. His fiancée has the personality of a wet noodle and cries all the time. It was easier for me to do it than deal with her struggling. X is polite enough to me, but his personality has changed. He is a different person and not very nice towards his fiancée. I didn't expect to, but I feel sorry for her. An NBSP. In the comments, commenter encourages Op to open up a can of petty and gives a list of suggestions. 3. Ask if the GF can look after the kids for day your ex doesn't have treated. Then go out on a date, looking $1,000,000. If you don't date, they don't need to know that. Just go out with girlfriends. If you do date, don't come home that night winking face. Op. I've done number 3 2 times already. I haven't dated yet since the divorce. I want to, but online dating scares me and my social life revolves around my kids. I am pretending to have plans just so I am dressed and out and feel good about myself. I didn't leave the kids with them though. I managed to arrange sleepover for kids with their friends on those nights. I have been amazed by how much love and support my kids and I are receiving from our neighbors and friends. I told a few close people what's going on, and I suppose most people know now. I have received a lot of offers for help. People can be kind. We got invited to a camping trip on Easter weekend and I am taking kids to that. EXMIL was making noises about having kids over and I've shut that down. You are a saint. Op. Not a saint, no. I am just trying to protect my kids and my sanity. I am keeping myself very busy and staying on task. I am working hard to avoid thinking things because that way is misery. This is very petty of me. But I have to admit that seeing they are not doing well has been somewhat mollifying for me. Emotionally. Might be worth looking into dating events that companies run. Might be a smoother way into the reintroduction to dating world. When you're ready, then dating sites. I haven't done online dating. But a friend of mine just married her husband who she met at a dating baking class. Have a look at what's in your area. Op. I need to look into dating events. I didn't know this was a thing. I need a detailed guide on how to do these things now. About selling the house. I have started looking into selling and am researching places to move to. But it is so very difficult. I don't have the budget to put the house on the market while I live elsewhere. Especially if it takes longer than 2 months to sell. I also don't feel secure opening the house for showings while my kids and I live here. The other issue is that I don't have close family I can rely on, and here in this neighborhood I had built up an awesome support system between neighbors and friends. Giving that up and starting somewhere new with 2 little kids in tow is daunting. I am trying to evaluate which option is the bigger con. Is an alternative sitting down with your husband and kids to explain this as a one-time offer? After these 3 months are up, they need to start saving and planning for any future care. Talked to my ex about it before he moved here. He agreed never again. With my daughter though, I am going to wait to have that conversation when she's not so freaked out about her dad's mortality. An NBSP reminder. Do not comment on the original posts or contact the original poster. I am not the original poster. This is a repost. It's weird, but it strangely sounds like it's been good for Op. She sees that out of this divorce his life hasn't gotten better. His AP is a downgrade in terms of partner. She's allowing herself to be petty enough to help her own mental health. Her ex-in-laws stepped on a gold mine and she can now ignore them as they are no longer good grandparents. She's starting to look after herself and be a bit selfish. She's come out on top and might be better off overall for it. I think this situation acted a bit like a shake to the system. Couldn't do it if I were her, but she's possibly one of the few it will turn out the better for. The audacity of the ex-husband and his GF and the ex-in-laws is mind-blowing. How dare they ask for more than they already put Oop through and then weaponize the children. I hope the Oop finds love that is true in her future. Hopefully once the treatment is over, Op will officially wash her hands of her ex and realize he is not her responsibility and she doesn't need to help with anything to do with his illness of financial situation. He is not her problem anymore. He's a grown adult and needs to learn to fill in his insurance forms and look after himself. It feels like his cancer effectively hid the fact that he's an entitled who treated his ex like an unpaid carer, with the support of his parents. I'm sure if he hadn't been sick he would have found other ways to use her. She is much more kind than I could ever be, letting not only the ex, but also his fiancé into her house after all the hurt they caused her. No words for the ex-MIL. So happy to see Op is keeping her away from the kids. As if her comedy skills are what cured his cancer. His fiancé has the personality of a wet noodle and cries all the time. It was easier for me to do it than deal with her struggling. Ex is polite enough to me, but his personality has changed. He is a different person and not very nice towards his fiancé. I didn't expect to, but I feel sorry for her. I guess she needs to rework the comedy special, it's not working for her anymore. Yeah, I give this new relationship 2 months before it's done. And luckily that's about the time ex will need to move out. I hope Oop gets some. An ex-husband and his toxic family live to regret all of it. I hope grandma stubs her toe every day, steps on a Lego once an hour, and has an eyelash fall in her eye once a week. She let the girlfriend move in too? I understand she doesn't want to upset her children, but sacrificing her own sanity is not the answer here. That poor woman. She has done everything right by her ex when they were married and continues to support him, so her kids, who have been thoroughly manipulated, don't hate her if he dies. Her husband is a garbage human and I can't help but feel is experiencing karma. If he dies, she is absolutely right to leave town with her kids and never let those grandparents near them again. When they are much older, she can tell them the whole story, warts and all. Their father is going to be canonized in their eyes. When he dies, and they need to know what their mother went through. Poor Oop. Her ex and in-laws trapped her in a now-in scenario, even being forced to tolerate the fiancé's presence, or else she would be stuck being caretaker again. Wow, that's rich. Man cheats on the woman who looked after his literal ass, wiping it among other things, just because he felt emasculated. And poor him. Gets engaged a day after the divorce, etc. Then has the gall to come back and ask her to stay at her place, probably hoping she'd nurse him again. Now with his new wifey who doesn't have OP's strength, and probably didn't sign up to deal with cancer. He's all mean and such. I bet he's thinking she's not as good as Op and he made a mistake, but hey, just desserts. Mill, though, I'd limit contact with her and the kids. What a manipulative harpy. Especially since Mill and Phil Blood knew he was cheating on his wife. Long story short, never date mama's boys. I see we have a contender for worst Mill of the year. I think the most frustrating part was that XMIL won. The ex is staying with Oop. She's a better person than I would have laughed, hung up, and then called back to continue laughing. Oh boy, he really won at life. Huh? Traded up from devoted and intelligent mother of his children to wet, useless noodle. Great job, sir. As weird as it may seem, I hope the GF stick around. If she was already crying her eyes out after only 3 days, I am afraid she will run out and Oop will end up having to take care of her ex. Him feeling emasculated is a reason for him to cheat? She's telling herself this to make herself feel better? Fuck that. And I hate the word, emasculate. As if it's some sort of horrible thing to not be masculine for a hot second and live up to your own ideas about your manhood. Why do we always treat masculinity like it's some great thing that needs to be worshipped compared to femininity? I guess I'm lucky my ex-husband and I are still friends. He had a heart attack a few years back and I went and stayed with him at the hospital so he would not be alone, with full support of my current husband. We did get lots of odd and confused looks from doctors and nurses when they asked who I was. Oh, just the ex-wife, lol. You did a good thing for your children, they would have been worried sick. I'm betting then in a couple of months this man will try to get back together with Op. I would say sell the house because it is clear that if something medical happens again, the ex will expect you to let him stay in that house. Not rent, because the ex will expect you to stop renting to let him stay there, or better let him live there, and as it was his house, for free. This is heartbreaking. The audacity of these people to put her through all this and keep piling on. I hope she has set up a rental agreement, or she's going to struggle to get her out after the 3 months is up. They have already admitted they are broke and guaranteed they are not putting money aside for future accommodation.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.